And welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Good Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Kate.
And I'm your co-host, Nate. Today we're talking Lovecraft.
Oh, all
Well,
right.
specifically Cthulhu.
Cthulhu. I feel like I need to be Patrick and do the whole yell for the conch shell, behold the magic conch.
The magic conch. Well, we're not far off. I mean, did you know that we're all under Cthulhu's influence?
All of us?
All of us.
One of us. One of us.
Yes. So, I guess before we really dive in, what do you know about Cthulhu?
Little. Probably more than the average Joe. I will say that. I
Okay.
know that he is a cosmic entity, demigod type thing. Monster, to be kind of an all-encompassing term, that was created by H.P. Lovecraft, and he's had many different iterations since then.
Absolutely. Lovecraft himself was responsible for hundreds of published works with a variety of different strings attaching to the story Call of Cthulhu, kind of expanding on that universe. Typically, it's referred to as the Cthulhu mythos.
Okay, so not a giant flying spaghetti monster.
Not quite. Not quite. So, who is Cthulhu? Well, within Lovecraft lore, he's considered one of the great old ones, the high priest, actually, of the great old ones.
Okay.
And these are like ancient cosmic beings that were supposedly created at the beginning or possibly before the beginning of the cosmos.
That's old.
So he is considered a water elemental. As the high priest, he is for some reason like the leader of the great old ones.
Okay. So Granddaddy Squid, got it.
Basically, yeah. So he's depicted as like a cross between like an octopus face and a dragon human hybrid kind of thing with giant wings and looking like a giant like sculpted dude. Just described as being the size of a mountain.
Wow. That's
So
huge.
yeah, so bigger than any building, bigger than skyscrapers, bigger than, most cities.
That's crazy. I can't imagine some
Right? Like
giant monster being that big.
to say he's a monster is like an understatement because he's this all-seeing magical, super super powerful entity.
So
That's
what was Lovecraft on in order to create something like this?
good question. To really understand that, you've got to kind of understand a little bit about who Lovecraft was and some of his
Okay.
origins.
All right.
So believe it or not, he published his first works, or his first short story, I should say, not his first works, but his first short story was published in a magazine called Weird Tales. Yeah, it was back in 1928, and his first
Whoa.
short story was Call of Cthulhu.
Okay.
So that was his first short story. He had poems and some contributions to other areas before that, but this was his first published short story.
Okay.
He was born in 1890.
Okay.
He died young though. He was only like 46 when he died.
A lot of people died young, pretty young back then.
I mean, that's fair. He's from Rhode Island, actually, though, believe it or not.
Okay.
So, kind of born by the sea, lived by the ocean most of his life. And Cthulhu sleeps supposedly at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. So you can kind of already see where some of those inspirations are drawing from.
The Pacific or the Atlantic?
He wrote Pacific.
Interesting. Well, I guess that would
Mhm.
make sense, but I don't know if they knew about the Marianas Trench back then.
I don't think they did. So it would be really hard to include facts that have yet to be discovered, I guess.
Right.
As far
Right.
as they were concerned, ocean is ocean. It's
Yeah.
basically bottomless
Yeah.
at
Interesting.
a certain point. Both of his parents were institutionalized.
Oh, so he comes by it naturally.
A little bit, yep. His father was institutionalized when he was only 3 years old, and his mother when he was 19.
Okay, so kind of raised by a single mom, which back
Um,
then was not easy.
no, actually, he was raised by his grandparents.
Oh, okay.
He was raised
Okay.
by his grandparents, the Whipples.
Whipples.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, he co-authored or wrote more than 100 different books and short stories, and that doesn't even include his poetry. He even wrote for philosophy and science.
What? Okay.
He
So a guy that can create a giant monster like that
He's also
is
writing philosophy books, yes.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
so it gets a little bit worse. A lot of his stories were inspired by the weird, bizarre stories that his grandfather would tell him when he was
Okay.
and his some of his notable inspirations for like other authors were Edgar Allan Poe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, fantastic Nathaniel Hawthorne, but Lord
Mhm.
Dunsay as well, out of the English Isles out there. Um,
Okay.
so some pretty notable people, that with
Yeah.
mixed with the weird freaking stories that he was told growing up, kinda helped shape his Cthulhu-esque.
Okay.
But he himself struggled greatly with, depression and with suicide.
Mm.
So he was a lot of times under supervision with other people in his life. He was not well
Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a little more sense now why
Yep,
he came up with some of the things that he did.
yep, but he also grew up being an atheist, so he didn't really
Oh.
believe in a great beyond of any kind.
The great beyond was the bottom of the ocean.
Exactly, exactly.
Interesting.
Um, he was married. He did get married in the early 20s, I think 21, to
Okay.
a girl named Sonia.
Oh, okay.
Um, and where some of his, "We are superior" kind of ideas would come from,
Mhm.
that has a little bit darker, backstory. He was quite classist, and he definitely leaned white supremacy kind of beliefs.
Yeah.
So you can see in his writings how that was inspiring things.
Yeah. Yeah, just the little bit of reading I did. He oof. But then
Yeah,
again, it wasn't like an uncommon thing back then during the
it
turn of the
wasn't.
century. Yeah.
Right. The real question, that's been asked with that for a lot of people is, was that because that was the beliefs of the times, or was that because he truly held to those beliefs? Was he just trying to be identified as someone that's okay and safe to be liked from the upper crust of society, or not? Because he was born into wealth himself.
That probably had a lot to do with it too.
Yep, and then, after his parents had passed away, a lot of that wealth had dried up, though, so he did not
Mm.
have that to fall back on like he used to,
Mm.
which I think
Okay.
also probably contributed to his earlier death.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably trying to scrounge around for money wherever he could, being a writer
Yeah.
during that
Um,
period.
did you know that he did not, go to college at all?
Really?
In fact, it doesn't look like he even graduated, from, like, a high school program.
Oh.
He was a dropout.
Well, I mean, a lot of other great minds of the 20th century never finished their formal educations either.
Correct.
But,
That seemed to be a common theme because, education didn't seem most, at least early education, didn't seem to be, very well fleshed out in some areas.
yeah, it
Could be
wasn't
really, really
very
basic.
well, it wasn't readily accessible to everybody either.
Right, right. Transportation alone would prevent a lot of people even from being able, to get to schools.
Well, public school wasn't even really a thing
No,
yet.
it really wasn't. I mean, you had, like, a community school in small areas
Mhm.
that wanted to make sure their kids could read the Bible, but Beyond
Yeah.
that, you wouldn't really get a lot of education in certain areas in the country at the time.
Sure. And that kind of makes me wonder with him being a dropout and then creating these other worlds or other creatures if he was neurodivergent.
Well, that could be too. That
Yeah.
really could be because that wasn't anything that was really even known or talked about or studied or anything at the time. I don't
Right.
think most of those terms even existed, let alone were researched yet.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just a little quirky.
Yep, yep, as someone would say, the quirky uncle over there.
Interesting. Well, I don't know how that someone like him with the belief systems that he held,
Mm,
having that expansive of like an influence on pop culture, because I know a lot of people probably are familiar with the imagery of like eldritch horrors and whatnot, but
mhm.
not knowing where it came from.
Right, or anything about the person that wrote it. Um,
Yeah,
I do find that people that are familiar with, Lovecraftian lore don't really know anything about the guy, at all,
himself.
or yeah, very little about him. So I do wonder, how many people would change their minds about, Cthulhu, mythos or any Lovecraftian lore, learning that about the guy.
Yeah, because a lot of times art is a projection of the person or,
Right,
you put
or their
little
beliefs
seeds.
or mhm,
Yeah. Mm, interesting. It's sounding like maybe he did put some of those like purist beliefs into his work,
mhm.
based on what little I read about like just the Call of Cthulhu itself. But yeah, so we went into like who is Cthulhu a little bit, and
Little,
we're all under his spell.
the supposedly looking so much as looking at him causes you to go mad instantly.
That's crazy. That's
Um,
like looking into like a giant eye with a whole bunch of spirals in it, and it like fucking hypnotizes you or something.
well, I guess with the mass of, like, tentacles and everything, and just his presence can cause mass hysteria in the world just because he woke up, supposedly.
Oh, so kind of like a Pandora's box situation a little bit.
A little bit, except, like, he's a sentient being that knows he does this. Um this is, like, supposedly where we get the infamous book, the Necronomicon, which is essentially a spell book full of stuff that Cthulhu would cast.
Oh, I didn't realize it came from this.
Mhm.
Oh, because like, there've been a lot of different, iterations of the Necronomicon
Oh,
throughout
yeah.
media and
And
stuff,
throughout
and
all kinds of, horror movies, even
yeah,
going back to the '70s, '60s even, there's references to that or to eldritch horrors.
interesting. I wonder if there's, like, something that he derived inspiration of that from, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, we had talked about the Malleus Maleficarum a little bit,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that there was, like, a Book of the Dead somewhere in there along the way, and then he stumbled upon that somehow and then created the Necronomicon.
Well, that could easily be, and we could go into the lore of the Necronomicon for an hour just on just the book alone.
Mhm.
There's I mean, it's with all of the different iterations of it throughout books and, movies and TV series, comics, I mean, the Necronomicon shows up everywhere.
Yeah, and most
Um,
notably, in Evil Dead.
oh, see, I love that series. That three-part movie series that's the GOAT.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Ash, I'm just saying, like, he's the hero we need.
Yeah, where is he in the world right now?
For
Oh,
real.
man.
Old
Okay,
chainsaw hand. But, as and within the Lovecraft lore, Cthulhu, like, his presence on Earth, just him sleeping underwater, he equates to where all of the cause of or the root cause of all anxiety within mankind comes from, is just his presence on Earth.
his snores are giving off anxious vibes.
It's, he has, like, an aura that causes anxiety to lesser beings.
And it doesn't matter how close you are?
Correct.
Oh,
If you're on the same planet, you're gonna be anxious because you just know, because the older ones, the ancient ones, the elder ones,
yeah.
the great ones, the great old ones. There's all kinds of different iterations of their name of that cosmic race of beings,
Yeah.
but essentially they are the most superior beings of all of the universe. So just his
Mm.
presence alone of one of them can cause that anxiety in perpetuity on a planet.
So, do they come from Earth or do they come from another planet?
Neither.
Okay.
They were essentially, like I said earlier, they were essentially created with the creation of the universe. They're as old as the stars themselves. So they're older
Okay.
than any of the planets. They're like always have been kind of horrors from the beyond.
Okay.
They're not necessarily tied to reality as we know it.
Okay.
They exist in our reality, but they also exist in a state that we can't comprehend, which is part of where the madness comes from.
Interesting.
Mhm.
'Cause I know that they originated from those stories, um, and I had read a little bit that Lovecraft was kind of creating these, a little bit before and also kind of during the same time that Tolkien was putting out The Hobbit and the
Mhm.
Lord of the Rings series. So just kind of creating these alternate realities where these mythical, fantastical creatures
Mhm.
exist. One definitely has a much darker take on
Yeah.
things, but it's like, where Tolkien puts all of his characters and settings in a different land. The Call of Cthulhu and, like, The Shadow over Innsmouth, they take
Mhm.
place in real places, you know?
Right.
Um, Shadow over Innsmouth, I think, is in America, like, on the East Coast, and Call
Mhm.
of Cthulhu, like, it starts on the East Coast, but it also, like, goes to Norway,
Mhm.
and so I'm like, "Well, how did these creatures get here, or have they always been here?" Because they're as old as the universe itself.
Right. They're older supposedly than the planet Earth is.
So they just,
They
drop
were
land and said, "Here's a good spot."
yeah, essentially, Cthulhu is the only of the elder ones on Earth.
Oh, okay.
There is a working theory, for a fan theory of the short story Call of Cthulhu, which is basically just a short story about a sailor who essentially finds Cthulhu. Um, they accidentally wake him up in the sea. He rises up. They crash into him. He bursts into flames. There's this whole big thing, and he kind of ends up going back to sleep again.
Right, they didn't kill him, they just kinda injured him, and
Just enough for
he
him to go, yeah. But the
yeah.
the fan theory is that that wasn't actually Cthulhu. That was one of Cthulhu's minions called the Starspawn,
Okay,
which are supposed to look very similar to Cthulhu, but pale in power in comparison to him.
interesting, and I guess that would make sense, you send your minion out before you show up yourself.
Exactly.
And I
So
think
there isn't any writings that confirm it. It's just a fan theory.
right, right, but that would be kinda cool,
Mhm. You would.
just kind of expanding upon the universe, but I remember reading that there was, earlier in the book, like, this kid had stumbled upon this cult-like gathering
Mhm.
of people around a bonfire. They were trying to summon Cthulhu,
Right.
and I don't know if they got into why they were trying to summon Cthulhu.
Um, kind of one of those things where uh, Cthulhu essentially infects people with this madness to become cultists for Cthulhu.
Okay.
And so
Mm,
essentially, the world would end with everybody becoming a Cthulhu cultist, and then I don't know, some big mass sacrifice or something.
yeah, I think there was human sacrifice that was involved in that
Hmm.
too. That would be really interesting just to kind of witness, I think.
I don't think you could witness it without ending up being a victim of it. That would be the
Yeah.
one problem with that. Unless you,
Yeah.
like, existed in, like, the TARDIS and you watched from the window or something,
What a crossover.
right?
Yeah, 'cause, like, I feel like, just no, just, like, witnessing, I don't know, put your sunglasses on, plug your ear holes, and just watch what happens just to see. So we're aware that, he's published all of these
Mhm,
different stories and poems and
mhm.
things,
Yeah, and
describing
the hardest part with all of that, though, I find, is that with the beliefs that he had, he was taken seriously in some aspects in science and in, what did I say earlier they had published?
philosophy.
Philosophy, yes.
Yeah.
Like, and he was taken seriously in some of these higher education circles, at least a little bit, and he's essentially toting a more realistic, less horror-inducing version of these stories as, this is how we should be because we're this,
Mhm.
they're that, whatever, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's weird because it really shows up in
Yeah.
all of his writing everywhere.
Yeah. And I remember reading something, about how he was creating the scene or the setting for, like, the town that Cthulhu was in,
Mhm,
was structured with non-Euclidean geometry,
mhm.
and I'm not 100% sure, like, what that is, um, or how to explain it. Do you know?
Best I can say is there was weird beliefs around that time about certain types of geometry or shapes, that that were considered like evil because they're essentially summoning, evil things or demons or devils or spirits or whatever it was. It was strange. I don't know a lot of specifics, just, it was like this weird satanic kind of geometry.
Um, so just a quick search. Non-Euclidean geometry is a branch of mathematics covering systems that differ from classical Euclidean or flat plane geometry, primarily by abandoning the parallel postulate. So things aren't parallel.
Mhm,
It describes curved spaces like spheres or saddles where parallel lines can intersect or diverge, and triangle angles do not sum to 180 degrees. Key types include elliptical and hyperbolic geometries, essential for understanding general relativity and navigation. So I guess that would kind of make sense considering they were talking about a ship that had sailed to this place and then crashed into Cthulhu,
mhm.
and how everything was not parallel straight up and down. Everything was like spherical or, parabola shaped.
Yeah, nothing was straightforward for sure.
And that's interesting that Lovecraft was not only interested in that, but included that in his work because I feel like that ties into the whole he was either neurodivergent or just some kind of crazy because
Maybe a
things
little of
being in
both.
a uniform, parallel, straight manner would make him anxious.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, and
but
and I think through some of these stories, he wanted to express the level of anxiety, that he probably experienced on a regular basis.
yeah.
Just
So what are some of the ways that we see Cthulhu and eldritch horrors kind of come to life in the media? And
Ooh, yeah, good question. We do get to see, just all over the place. Starting way back even in the '60s, we've got the movie The Haunted Palace.
Mm,
Yeah, I think you're
that's
familiar with this one.
I haven't actually seen this one, but I'm a huge Vincent Price fan, because he's one of those actors who predates Johnny Depp, but he's like he kind of is himself playing these
Mhm.
other characters, and he wasn't necessarily a method actor. He would just like read the script and go for it.
Right.
So this is definitely one that I'm gonna want to check out because it's not only named after a Poe work,
Mhm.
but it's based on Lovecraftian lore.
It is. And Lovecraft lore was in part based off of Edgar Allan Poe,
Mhm.
right back again. So I think that was kind of an homage to him, when he wrote that.
Mhm.
Um, but, yeah, it's basically, a warlock or someone who's suspected of being like a warlock, a magical person, curses a town after an incident occurs, and then like 110 years later, their descendants show back up, and then kind of follows, everything that happens from there on,
Curse the town.
right? And then we can like another really big one, from 1986, From Beyond.
Okay.
That's, more of a sci-fi movie, where a scientist makes a machine that allows them to see beyond the norms of reality,
Mm.
and they accidentally unleash this cosmic Cthulhu-esque horror, um,
Okay.
and it kinda infects people starts to infect people's minds.
Cthulhu in space. Got it.
Mhm, pretty much. In 2005, the H.P. Lovecraft Society, the Historical Society, created a noir-style silent film, on the Call
Mm.
of Cthulhu.
Oh, okay.
So
That would
that
be
one is
interesting.
interesting. Watch it with a grain of salt because I don't know if any of them are professionals in film really, but they sure tried.
Yeah. Okay.
If you go into it understanding it's going to be a silent film, it does make a big difference.
Okay.
And it is
Understood.
noir, so that is a very specific niche style.
I
Not
gotta love a
everybody
black
can
and
get
white
behind
movie.
it.
I love noir films. They're so cool.
You might enjoy this one then. I'm
Okay.
not saying it was done poorly, it's just very niche.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta be kind of a bigger movie buff to understand.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And then we could jump farther forward. I think, my opinion, this movie right here is probably the biggest horror movie, that was inspired, Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, okay. I didn't
So,
realize that one was inspired by Lovecraft.
uh, well, what do you think the giant cosmic horror that everyone's being sacrificed to is at the end?
I might have to go back and rewatch it. But that does make sense, and I think I had seen that before I was introduced to Lovecraft, so I
Yeah,
don't
it's
think I would
very
have had an
heavily
idea.
inspired by Lovecraftian lore.
That's cool because I thought it was kind of taking notes from a whole bunch of different classic horror movies like
It is,
Evil
for sure.
Dead and Chainsaw Massacre and
Uh, no, there it does take inspiration from a lot of different ones, niches, but it also, has an overarching theme of X amount of people have to be sacrificed every year, or this cosmic horror will destroy us.
that could speak to so many other horror movies too, though,
Mhm.
like cultist or, weird old ancient tribes sacrificing
Oh, there's
humans
so
to
many, yeah. I guess I just kinda look for the most prevalent ones, the biggest name or the
yeah,
easiest connect.
the big monster ones.
Exactly. I would love to do, like, a deep dive series where we go through, a lot of the works and how it relates to things today.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, your thoughts on that.
Okay. So that's movies. Where
Mhm.
else do we find
Music, it's all over in, the Arkhams. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
mm-mm,
They play psychobilly music.
psychobilly?
Psychobilly.
Is that like rockabilly, but on drugs?
But, like, with EDM.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Not, but it's strange. It's
Okay.
like electronic, but it's not dance, but it's psychobilly is a weird genre. I don't really have the words to describe it. Definitely go check some out. It's interesting. Um,
Okay.
we've got, like, Blue Oyster Cult. Um,
Okay.
they
I
have
know
a
who those
lot
guys
of
are.
different songs. Don't Fear the Reaper is definitely one that took some Lovecraftian lore into consideration.
Really? Huh. I thought that was about Jack the Ripper.
A little, but the seasons and how everything and stuff, um, takes from like the elementals and the old stuffs that comes from
Oh,
Lovecraftian.
okay. Okay.
The Black Dahlia Murder, their death metal band, they have a lot of kind of Cthulhu inspired lyrics in a variety of songs.
That
Um,
would make sense.
Black Sabbath, anybody familiar with them can easily see a lot of connections.
Interesting. Although that does kind of make sense knowing
Yep,
Ozzy.
yep. Dead Mouse has uh, some Lovecraftian inspiration coming from him too.
Hmm. All right. All
Yep.
right.
For those that don't know, that's more of electro house music.
Mhm.
Metallica, going back to the heavy metal.
Really?
Yep. They've got quite a few different horror esque things that come from Lovecraftian lore in some of their lyrics. We can even go into a band that we have done a deep dive in already, Sleep Token.
Oh, yes. Okay.
You're like, I'm right there. The artwork alone with the tendrils and the horror-esque, Sleep could
Yes.
even be looked at as an inspiration or as being inspired by the great old ones.
Yes. And especially in their graphic novel, Teeth of God,
Mhm.
goes into an event that happens with a blood moon and an eclipse, and essentially the moon breaking apart to release this eldritch horror that
Mhm.
is modeled after Cthulhu.
Mhm. So, yeah, quite a few bands, ranging multiple generations have all taken a lot of inspiration, from the Cthulhu mythos.
Crazy.
We can even go into inspiring comics.
Oh, okay.
For example, there's an artist, John Coulthard. Has a series that he does for Call of Cthulhu,
Mm,
Haunter of the Dark, the Dunwich. These are all
yeah.
very, very heavily steeped in Lovecraftian lore.
I mean, it's ripped right from the pages.
Exactly. DC Comics have had a lot of inspiration as well. Look at how Arkham Asylum was written. That
Okay.
series has quite a bit of that a lot of different Batman series, if we're honest.
Okay. Because I
Um,
know Arkham was referenced in Call of Cthulhu, wasn't it? And
yeah, and they take some of that in back into the actual comics, and kind of model some of the more darker points of that
that's
after
so
that mythos.
interesting. That I never would have guessed that like a fictional town such as that would be like inspired by
Hmm.
a crazy man.
Right. I mean, but it makes sense though. Arkham Asylum contains all the crazy people anyway.
That's true. I feel bad for anybody who lives there.
Oh, that's got to be a tough life. Where are you from? Arkham? Do you know the Joker? Man, that would get old so quick.
Yeah.
The new Constantine series, the Hellblazer, that has a lot of
Okay.
Lovecraftian lore.
Okay.
iZombie, for example.
Isn't that like a Disney kid show?
No, iZombie is a series produced by Rob Thomas. But before he produced this, he also guest stars in one of the episodes. Um, spoiler alert, where he ends up playing in his band as Rob Thomas and then gets turned into a zombie. So he's zombie Rob Thomas trying to play guitar. It's hilarious.
Oh my god.
But before that, it was a comic book series in the DC Comics universe.
Wow. Okay.
Swamp Thing is inspired. Yeah, the comic and then the TV series after.
I've never heard of it. I mean, I've heard of Creature from the Black Lagoon, but
No, Swamp Thing so much better. That as a kid, that was my favorite comic book character was Swamp Thing. I absolutely
interesting.
loved it. I
Okay.
read it. I watched the TV series. I was in love. Swamp Thing was my thing.
Okay.
I was nerdy from the get go.
Yeah.
Um, Even Wonder Woman though takes some inspiration. like the original comics, some of the cosmic stuff that happens within there is inspired by the great old ones.
Wow. That's insane. Okay.
Or we can look even outside of DC though. We've got things like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, still a great comic series. But it takes a lot of inspiration from like the cults and stuff and a lot of the Lovecraftian lore.
Okay. The name rings a very vague bell, but
There was a
that's
movie that was
okay.
made, but it was, if you like the comic, you wouldn't really like the movie.
Okay. Is that the one with George Clooney in it?
Don't know. I didn't see the movie. I
Maybe
saw
that's
the
the Men Who
previews
Stare
and
at
I was
Goats,
like,
and I'm
this
getting
is
them
not for
mixed up.
me. Um, yeah, I didn't see the movie. I saw the previews. That was it. I didn't want to see the movie after I saw the previews.
That's fair.
I mean, we can go even farther. Cthulhu has been in tabletop games too.
Really?
There's several different board games directly based off of some of the Cthulhu mythos works. Like a Call
Okay.
to Cthulhu board game even. Um,
Okay.
there's also card. So there's a huge, well, it used to be a huge card game called Munchkins, and it had all kinds of different iterations, right? And
Yeah.
it's like easy D&D card game is about the easiest way
Okay.
I can explain it. You get
Okay.
your abilities and equipments from the cards you draw, and that's it. And then you just play that way.
Oh. Okay.
They have a Cthulhu inspired version of it, and
Ooh.
essentially you're fighting to not become a cult member, and the game ends
Okay.
when everybody becomes a cult member, and then the game you lose the game.
It's a lose-lose game.
If you're playing with a big enough group, yeah, because
Huh.
if one person becomes a cult member, they infect other players, and then those players infect
Mm.
other players, and those players infect other players.
Okay. Okay.
So you have
Okay.
to beat the game very, very quickly, or it's just not going to happen. And players, you're competing against each other the whole time to be the winner. So you're
Yeah.
going to do everything you can to prevent other players from winning. So that one
Mm.
essentially is a race to see who the last non-cult member is. It's a
Okay.
fun one. It's a
It's
fun
like a
one.
game of tag a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Um, it shows up in a lot of video games as well, though, too.
Yeah.
Look at like Elden Rings, for example, for a current example.
Oh, yeah, now that I think about it,
Hmm.
some of
Hmm.
the big bad bosses.
Yep, they're very Lovecraftian inspired.
Okay.
Um, or a little bit older games, but still really popular, like in the Elder Scrolls series, Skyrim specifically. You can meet a eldritch, a horror inspired Daedric prince called Dagon, which
Mm.
comes from the Dagon written book from Lovecraft himself.
Yeah, and he's another one of the old ones, right?
Yep, yep, he's a different one of the
Okay.
old ones. There's also Hermaeus Mora, which is this magical, all-knowing tentacle monster-esque thing that if you see them, if you see their true form, all of a sudden you go mad.
Crazy.
So,
Um,
yeah, there's a lot of very big things with Cthulhu in. I mean, and look at TV. Um,
mhm.
how many different TV series have had at least one or two episodes with like a Cthulhu or other eldritch horror theme for it? Supernatural is really good example of one that's done
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, they've been showing up even in manga and anime, all over the place since the 60s and 70s.
Wow. He really has stood the test of time
Hmm.
with
Just as
those
much
works.
as Lord of the Rings, just as much as
Yeah.
probably more so than the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series.
Oh, yeah, because C.S. Lewis wrote those kind of around the
Hmm.
same time too,
Yep, yep,
or
yep.
probably a little bit later on. Because
Little later. But C.S. Lewis, outside of that book series being big for a short while, and then finding a resurgence in the early 2000s, shortly followed by the movies, hasn't really stayed in the forefront, whereas Lovecraft the whole Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah. Well, I think if you create a work of fiction and create a character or a monster that is just scary enough,
Mhm.
that there's going to be a lot of different interpretations on that
You know,
because
it
it's
makes me wonder, was that done on purpose so that people would be able to have these debates on some of it, or were things just either left out or he didn't realize he was being vague?
mm, that is a question because I think,
One we will never get answered, but
you're right. Well, it makes me think of, like, when you're looking at horror movies compared to, like, action or drama or romance, there's kind of these core emotions they're trying to provoke out of
Mhm,
people. And it leads back to the question of what is really scary? What do people find terrifying? And I think the more vague
mhm.
the description is of the big bad monster in the closet, the scarier it is. The
Yeah,
less defined it is, the scarier it is. Whereas if
yep,
you're looking at action or drama or romance, it's a pretty clear cut path of
mhm,
like right and wrong. This is what we want to see as the end result. This is what we want people to feel is we
right,
want them to feel wholesome, happy, sad, in love, whatever.
uh-huh.
But fear is a vague enough term that in order to define it, you can use X amount of different avenues to get there.
Yeah, and in my opinion, the scariest thing that you can come across is the thing that you know is there, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah. Or you can't even see it, but you can feel it.
Yeah, you know
And
it's
I
something, but you don't know what.
Right, and I think that's what makes Cthulhu and some of the other old ones that
Mhm.
terrifying is because you can't define them, but
Right,
you
not
can feel
exactly.
them.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, okay. What an interesting surface level.
Yeah, this just barely scratches the surface on Lovecraftian lore and history. There's so much deeper things to get into, but
Mhm.
even in just 1 hour, we there's no way we could cover even a small portion of it all.
Let us know in the comments if you would like us to do more of a deep dive on specifically Cthulhu or any other Lovecraftian lore, some of the other old gods, and some of the mythos surrounding Lovecraftian lore.
Yeah,
And
and share with us your favorite Cthulhu or Lovecraftian inspired, media, artwork, games, movies, whatever it may be.
yeah, today's episode was sponsored by Dubby Energy Drinks.
Dubby,
And
hop.
you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.